Republicans are already rushing to fill the Supreme Court seat left by Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg and force through a conservative supermajority that will help them cement minority rule for a generation. For more on this, it's time for a closer look. So yesterday, a friend of mine gave my youngest son an apple, and he showed him how you could shine it by rubbing it on your shirt like this. And then my son started doing it, but he did it after each bite he took, thus covering himself in apple juice. And each time we tried to explain to him that's not how you were supposed to do it, he just laughed harder and harder. My point is, I'm glad that also happened this weekend, because otherwise this weekend was the worst. There are few words left to say about Ruth Bader Ginsburg's legacy that haven't already been said. She's a feminist icon who was already the leading litigator for women's rights in the country before she joined the High Court and became one of its most iconic and influential justices. And in addition to everything else she accomplished, she was also a fierce defender of democracy. For example, she delighted audiences by brandishing the pocket constitution she carried with her wherever she went.
So if I take out my pocket constitution, which I carry with me wherever I go in the world. So here it is.
Amazing. She was as knowledgeable about the Constitution as anyone in history, and yet out of reverence for the document, she still carried it around with her. Watching RBG reach into her tote bag for her pocket Constitution is like watching Batman reach into his utility belt for his grappling hook. And of course, you'd never see the latter, because no matter where you stand on Batman, he clearly lacks the crowd-pleasing show-and-tell warmth of RBG. And she was from Brooklyn, so something tells me she busted that thing out a lot. Excuse me, lady, you can't park here. Let me just take out my pocket constitution. Oh, it's RBG, run, boys! Ginsburg was an incisive jurist and legal pioneer. As recently as May, she called into the Supreme Court's oral arguments from her hospital bed to advocate for Obamacare's protections for access to contraception.
She kept attending oral arguments. When the arguments went by telephone after the COVID pandemic really shut down this court in March, Justice Ginsburg continued to participate. In fact, it was in May when she had the gallbladder condition where she went to the hospital. She actually participated in the oral arguments from her hospital bed at that point.
Incredible. Not only would I not participate in a conference call if I were in the hospital, I know multiple people who have pretended they were in the hospital to get out of conference calls, unless, that is, one of my writers actually has something called Blort's disease. Ruth Bader Ginsburg was an intellectual titan, a tireless advocate of equality, a relentless guardian of democracy, and a towering figure in the history of American jurisprudence and civil rights. And if Republicans get their way, her successor on the court will be chosen by this guy.
Okay, that was the first little time. Then he went, Donald Trump, yeah, Donald Trump. I love Donald Trump. I got the Nobel Peace Prize nomination, a Peace Prize Nobel nomination. We will defend the dignity of work, and we will defend the sanctity of life. America will land the first woman on the moon, and the United States will be the first nation to land an astronaut on Mars.
Oh, man, dude, I don't think you are going to win the Nobel Peace Prize. Seriously, what's going on here? Just because your presidency feels like a root canal to the rest of us doesn't mean you have to take the Novocaine. I mean, did he just have dental surgery? Did they take out all of his teeth, and did they replace them with gummy bears? He sounds like Siri after you drop your phone in the toilet. Siri, can you name the planets in the solar system?
Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars.
Okay, you know what? But that's right. Donald Trump won the Nobel Peace Prize because he defends the sank of life and will put an astronaut on Mars. Whenever he talks like that, I expect him to turn around and reveal that he has leaves in his hair. Remember a few weeks ago when Trump insisted he didn't have a series of mini strokes despite the fact that no one claimed that he did? Is that because they were maxi strokes? I'm not saying he was lying, but watching that, even I smelled burnt toast. I mean, he can't even say his own name. He called himself Donald Trump. That sounds like an off-brand Disney character you'd find at a toy store in Russia. Donald Trump, he's fun. Come for 2 for 1. You get Jared Kushner. Jared Kushner, tiny, skinny little dolly to talk to. I am not qualified for my job. He's 2 for 1. Although I have to say, Donald Trump is a much more accurate name for him. You know, like a character from one of those old claymation Christmas specials. Hey, look, it's old Donald Trump. Santa says he's on the naughty list because he hangs out by the liquor store and buys beers for underage kids. And this isn't even the first time Trump has gotten his own name wrong. I mean, once he called himself Tatump. I guess those cognitive tests come with your name pre-filled in. You know how you get 200 points on the SATs just for writing down your own name? Trump might be the first student in history who got a negative score. But this is how everything is. The president of the United States can't even say his own name, and we can't, as a nation, take a few minutes to enjoy that because of, the death of democracy and stuff like that. In fact, this weekend, Trump went full fascist by celebrating the supposed good genes of his supporters and celebrating police violence against a journalist who was covering protests, MSNBC's Ali Velshi.
You have good genes. A lot of it's about the genes, isn't it? Don't you believe? The racehorse theory, you think was so different? You have good genes in Minnesota. I remember this guy, Welchie, he got hit on the knee with a canister of tear gas, and he went down. He was down. My knee. Nobody cared. These guys didn't care. They moved him aside. And they just walked right through. It was the most beautiful thing. No, because after we take all that crap, for weeks and weeks, they would take this crap, and then you finally see men get up there and go right through. Wasn't it really a beautiful sight?
Okay, first of all, Prump. His name is Velshi, not Welshi. Second, in addition to being explicitly and unapologetically fascist to call for state violence against journalists, it's also absurd to listen to this celebration of physical violence from one of the biggest physical cowards in the world. I mean, you hid in a bunker because there were protesters outside the White House, and you nearly wet yourself because of a bird. Right after that clip, the Eagle gave him 2 for flinching. The closest you've ever come to a fist fight is sounding like you're answering the referee's questions after taking a foot in the head from Ronda Rousey. What year is it? 1985. What planet are we on? Mars. What's your name? Donald Trump. Okay, he's done. Or, if it's a Republican ref, he's good to go. 4 more years, champ. Also, you really want to talk about good genes? Your brain is ricotta cheese and you look like a Halloween decoration that's been out on the lawn since last year. You should be on the stoop with an orange bucket in your lap and a sign that says 1 piece per child. So, Senate Republicans, who represent 15 million fewer Americans than Senate Democrats, are pulling out all the stops to help a sundowning fascist who lost the popular vote by 3 million to fill a Supreme Court seat vacated by a feminist icon 6 weeks before an election. And Trump, of course, has signaled that he's fully on board.
The president tweeted this out. At GOP, we were put in this position of power and importance to make decisions for the people who so proudly elected us, the most important of which has long been considered to be the selection of the United States Supreme Court justices. We have this obligation without delay.
I have begun work to fulfill my constitutional duty to nominate another justice of the Supreme Court.
We have an obligation. We won. And we have an obligation as the winners to pick who we want. That's not the next president. Hopefully I'll be the next president.
Even if you win, you're not really going to be the next president. You're barely the current president. We're at 200,000 deaths and almost 7 million COVID cases, and you spent the weekend golfing at your private club and slurring your way through another rally like a drunk guy at karaoke. I'm going to do Bowie. Is there life on Mars? But you heard the president. Republicans should move without delay. And to be fair, at least it's consistent with his position from 2016 when Merrick Garland, look, I don't need to do this whole fake sarcastic setup, right? You guys just roll the clip and I'll think about my son and his apple again.
I hope that our Senate is going to be able, Mitch and the entire group is going to be able to do something about it in times of delay. I think it's up to Mitch McConnell and everybody else to stop it. It's called delay, delay, delay.
Now look, I get that highlighting their hypocrisy is mostly pointless. Hypocrisy only matters if you have shame. They don't. Mitch McConnell certainly isn't capable of feeling shame. He looks like a haunted wooden doll you'd find at an estate sale and has the same level of emotional complexity. Their bad faith justifications were obvious bull back then, and their bad faith reversals are obvious bull now. But it's still worth taking stock of just how insulting and transparent their lies were and remembering that for the future, because it's not just hypocrisy, it's nihilism. They're moral black holes who only care about the raw exercise of political power. And plus, we went through all the trouble of gathering the tape, so we're going to play it. And while we do that, I'm going to pass the time by getting started on a project I've been meaning to get around to. I am going to crochet a blanket, and I will try to get at least a corner done. I mean, how long could this clip package take?
Senator Chuck Grassley, the chair of the Judiciary Committee himself, said it only makes sense that we defer to the American people who will elect a new president to select the next Supreme Court justice.
The American people should be afforded the opportunity to weigh in.
You can't have one rule for Democrat presidents and another rule for Republican presidents.
I believe the next Supreme Court justice ought to be chosen by the American people through the election of the next president. I think we're too close to the election. The president who was elected in November should be the one who makes this decision.
The Senate will appropriately revisit the matter after the American people finish making in November the decision they've already started making today. The American people are perfectly capable of having their say on this issue. So let's give them a voice. Let's let the American people decide.
It has been 80 years since a Supreme Court vacancy was nominated and confirmed in an election year. There is a long tradition that you don't do this in an election year. This should be a decision for the people, George. Let the election decide.
I don't think we should be moving forward on a nominee in the last year of this president's term. I would say that if it was a Republican president.
The American people need a chance to weigh in on this issue, on who will fill that seat. They'll have that chance this November, and they ought to have that chance.
This is about principle, not the person the president has nominated. And it's why the majority of the Senate has chosen to use this unique situation as an opportunity to let the American people have a voice.
I want you to use my words against me. If there's a Republican president in 2016 and a vacancy occurs in the last year of the first term, you can say, Lindsey Graham said, let's let the next president, whoever it might be, make that nomination. If an opening comes in the last year of President Trump's term and the primary process is started, we'll wait to the next election. And I've got a pretty good chance of being the judiciary.
You're on the record.
Yeah.
All right.
Hold the tape.
Holy huh, just in time for fall. Jesus, that montage was so long my hair grew out again and again. I get that the hypocrisy is baked in. Pointing it out won't change their minds. It's like telling a middle school bully, give me a wedgie, won't make your parents get back together. He knows that. He just wants to give you that wedgie. Still, it's worth documenting just how obvious and degrading the lies were, and remembering this the next time they pretend to care about some obvious bull like cutting the deficit or respecting the courts. Also, it's striking just how specific their promises were. This is about principle. I'd say that if a Republican was president. Use my words against me. I'm shocked Lindsey Graham didn't get up there and say, mark my words, if 45 days before the 2020 presidential election, an iconic liberal justice passes away and requested as her dying wish that she not be replaced until after the election, which has taken place during a once-in-a-century pandemic, just 2 weeks after it's announced that Keeping Up with the Kardashians is ending, then you can use my words against me. I promise I will not vote on a justice nominated by President
Donald Trump.
Seriously, though, when you watch a montage like that and then see all the same people scurrying as quickly as possible to reverse themselves 4 years later, it's almost like the lying and the hypocrisy are the point. Like they're trying to rub our noses and just how shameless and unaccountable they are, that they don't care about democracy, that they can do whatever they want. For example, when Ted Cruz was asked about his comments from 2016, he dismissed them as meaningless.
Look, we had this fight at the end of the Barack Obama term, and at the time, all the Democrats were saying, confirm the nominee, and all the Republicans were saying, we're not going to confirm the nominee. And so we've got a situation, you just played a quote from me in 2016. We can play that game all day long.
If you want to play clips of me lying through my weird little teeth while condescending like a French waiter at Disneyland, we can play that game all day long. Democrats have to internalize the fact that this is not about principle, this is about raw political power. And they need to use every tool at their disposal to stop it. A Senate majority that won fewer votes than the Senate minority wants to help a corrupt autocrat install an unprecedented conservative supermajority on the Supreme Court, appointed largely by presidents who lost the popular vote, including, of course, the current president,
Donald Trump.
This has been a closer look. God's Love We Deliver cooks and brings over 2 million meals a year to men, women, and children living with HIV/AIDS, cancer, and other serious illnesses, and they need your help now more than ever. If you're watching this online, You can hit the donate button. Stay safe. Wash your hands. Wear a mask. We love you.